Hello and welcome to another video from me, Boots on the Ground UK. In this video I'm going to show you some basic health and safety and some advice on using a hatchet, an axe, a buck knife or a bush knife out in the field. Some very simple tips that will help you and stop you getting injured, especially when you want to whittle a stick or cut some firewood. And in the meantime, let's get our boots on the ground here in the Dales, have a look at something interesting, and maybe, just maybe, you can learn a thing or two. This tube is absolutely brilliant.
There's a certain tree that I've been looking for here in the woods, and there is one over here, and that tree is the silver birch. Now there's a couple of reasons and a couple of things we can actually use the silver birch for. The first one is kindling to start a fire. We can actually strip some of the bark off here. Let me show you here. We can actually strip some of this off, this fine papery texture that we can also use for kindling, as I mentioned. But we can also, which I won't be doing today, we can actually put a hole in this tree. If you drill a hole in there about an inch and leave a cup underneath, you will get a clear nectar, a sugary sweet water that can actually really refreshing. As I say, I'm not going to do it here today, but if you are going to do this and you leave the cup for a few hours, what you need to ensure is that you actually plug the hole back up, because you are actually taking nutrients and water away from the tree, and eventually it will die. So this is a very valuable tree indeed for bushcraft. And anyway, it's a beautiful tree anyway. And if you're wondering what all that was about, this is purely a tripod or a monopod to be able to hold the camera, so I can show you how to use a hatchet properly. Awesome. So here we are in the woods. We've got our tripod, so you know what I was doing now, just somewhere to put the camera on. And what we need to do when we're chopping firewood is we need to have quite a solid base. And one of the first things that I've learned from looking at the Ray Mears stuff and from learning from him is that we never use the axe standing up, and I shall show you why now. People are chopping actual firewood like this. This has already been split. If this is around logging and we're wanting to chop this, people put this on a solid surface as so. Then when they take the hatchet, this is what they do. I'm going to exaggerate this, okay? They stand in front of it, they take a swipe, they either follow through and miss, and it goes straight into the shin. This ends up with a fractured leg, and of course you can get yourself into some serious trouble. So the safest way when using this is to stay kneeling down. If I come here and I slip, it's going to hit the ground, so preferably we want to be using this at arm's length. Now in order for me to break this, if it doesn't smash on the first time, then I'll show you what we're actually going to do. Luckily for us, that went straight through no problem, but I'll try and do it so it doesn't. Let's imagine I won't hit this as hard this time. So as we come in and strike it, we get to this point here. Now the two options are we don't break the axe off. We can either hit it this way and that will eventually split it. And we can of course split the axe slightly as you bring it down, and that will split it. So as we get here, now the hatchet is actually stuck in the wood. As I mentioned, that was one option, but the other option is if these are a little bit short. But if you can find a longer stick, then all you need to do is simply bash the top of your axe like this with a longer stick, and it will split. You can split these again and again into 8 pieces until you actually get your kindling. So we did a little bit of bushcraft, not really bushcraft, very beginner stuff, but hey, we all start somewhere. So that was how to use your hatchet or an axe, and the last thing, tip on that, always make sure you know where it is and put it back in its case so it's safety. Right, next up we have the extremely sharp bush knife, or in my case, a buck knife. Now, I needn't tell you how dangerous these can be, and one slip and I shall show you the mistake that a lot of people do. They actually cut the artery in the leg, they bleed out in the woods and they can die, and as we're out here in the middle of nowhere, just don't risk it. So one of the safest ways to actually use these knives is we keep the knife as close to us as possible, no striking motion whatsoever. So this knife we keep to our chest, obviously with the blade that way, so that when we cut the wood, in this case we're going to use a feather, we're actually keeping the pressure with the thumb on the back, on the chest here. Just keeping that finger away from that blade, it's not a good safety, like so. And then we bring the wood to the knife and then we cut like so. This way there is no way of cutting yourself or slipping, like so. Not doing the best feather stick here, but this way the knife is safe, it cannot slip, and you're not going to injure yourself or anybody else. Obviously you don't leave the knife like that, it's just for this video. But the feather stick, I've not made much use of this. This wood's a little bit damp, as you can see there. Now the other mistake, the big mistake that I said about people actually killing themselves out in the woods, and yes it does happen if you Google it, is because people do this, and I'm not going to use the knife now here. I'm going to give you this stick as an example. So this is my buck knife. Now when people are sat up in a more upright position, which I'm not really here, what tends to happen is, as they take the stick that they want to cut, they put it here, or even here, like this, because they want to do this, like so. Now this is extremely dangerous, because what tends to happen is they do this. Into the top of the thigh, straight through, and you've got a main artery here in your leg. If you go through that, you're in a world of pain. You better know how to make a tourniquet to wrap around that leg and get help as soon as possible. So we never have striking motions like this, straight through the leg. Always, always, always here. Or the second alternative is we keep the knife under the boot, like so, and we bring the wood through this way. We pull the wood through the knife that way. That's the safest way to use a buck knife. At no point are we swinging this around or using it as a dagger or anything else like that. And let's just get these bloody flies. Just a little bit of a safety tip there. Hope you enjoyed that. Bushcraft 101. And never ever leave sticks or spikes pointing up like that. That's fairly obvious. This tube is absolutely brilliant. As you can see, absolutely nothing. I can't even see past the edge of the fireplace. It took me a long time to get this fire going. I don't know if I'll be able to see it. Tell you what, it's spooky enough as it is without having a bloody red light on. My God.